Hello. Good morning, everyone. The reason why I say good morning because the time that I am recording this is in a morning. No? Kaya good morning yung pagbati ko sa inyo. Today we are going to talk about the part 2 of our discussion on relationships and interpersonal skills. Obviously, the part 1 of our discussion on this topic happened during our Google Classroom session. Because we don't have enough time, we only have 40 minutes. I divided our discussion into two parts. So this is the second part of our discussion. So far, we are discussing the different skills that you need to remember or you need to do if you want to establish a relationship with an acquaintance. One very important idea that I want you to learn is relationships, number one, are needed. Talagang hindi pwedeng sabihin mo na hindi mo kailangan ng relationships. But number two, relationships are not automatic. They don't just happen. You need to at least start a relationship. And the skills that we are discussing so far are the different skills that will help you establish a relationship with an acquaintance. So yan yung pag-uusapan natin ngayon in this video. But before I talk about the other skills that you can use to establish a relationship, let me just repeat some of the slides that I mentioned from our previous discussion so that we have a sense of continuity. Para na rin maalala ninyo, baka kasi nalimutan nyo na. So I started by saying that one fact of life, when you say fact, it means something that is you cannot deny, something that is real. We are built for relationships. We are not meant to live our lives alone. We are built by God to be interdependent with one another. Biblical basis is Genesis chapter 2 verse 18. The Lord God said, "It is not good for a man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." The first not good God saw from His creation is it is not good for a man to be alone. Ang Diyos na mismo nagsabi na hindi maganda sa tao ang mag-isa. Therefore, how did God respond to this first not good? He makes another human being. Why did He make another human being? Not to enslave that another human being, but to make that another human being interdependent with Adam. Adam was created for Eve and Eve was created for Adam. They are there to help each other out. Kaya nga nakalagay dito helper, di ba? Hindi slave. Okay? So the very purpose of relationships, it's not to dominate one over the other, but relationships are meant to really lighten the load that we carry in our everyday life. Okay? So again, going back, my point here is we are built for relationships. Even in psychology, specifically Abraham Maslow agrees with this statement where he mentions in his hierarchy of needs na lahat ng tao kailangan ng love and belongingness. Right? If you want to have a good mental health, one of the things that you really need to give yourself is love and belongingness. And where do you get this? You get this from your existing relationships. You cannot buy this through money. You can only get genuine love and belongingness from genuine human relationships. Also, last meeting I mentioned that life in general is designed for interdependency. Ganon dinisenyo ng Diyos ang buhay na ang tao magdidepend dapat siya sa iba pang mga tao in any point of his or her existence. Like for example, that starts during the prenatal period. While you were inside the mother's womb, obviously you cannot say that you can already do it alone. Diba? You are completely dependent on your mother for your own survival. Lalo na kapag pasok mo ng infancy. The more you need the support coming from your parents, later on your immediate family, and later on, you need the society to help you develop. And then you enter school. Do you think you can learn alone? No. You need teachers to teach you. You need classmates to inspire you to continue studying. Fast forward when you enter the working world, can you say you are already independent? Again, hindi pa rin because you need your employers for you to have work and your employers need you so that their companies would survive. Kapag angkong or ama ka na, ano ba yan? Can we say you are already independent? No. In fact, the more you become dependent on other people because your bodies are already becoming weaker, the more you need support from other people. So the point here is there is no point in human life where we can say that we are completely independent from other people because life is designed to be interdependent. So what? Ano ngayon kung ang buhay ay dinisenyo for interdependence, the more that we need to learn how to establish human relationships. 'Di ba? Kasi yung saan ba tayo nagdidepende sa isa't isa pero hindi naman agad-agad na other people would allow us to be interdependent with them. We first need to establish relationships with them, and that's the reason why we are studying interpersonal skills. That's how important it is to learn interpersonal skills. And last meeting, we mentioned that there are two components of interpersonal skills. Number one is how do you establish a relationship? How do you start one? And then number two, how to maintain a relationship. So those are two different interpersonal skills. So far, we are talking about number one, how to establish a relationship. Diba? Doon muna tayo sa paano magsimula bago paano mag-maintain, which will be our discussion for next week. And so far, what we have been discussing about establishing a relationship, ang sinabi ko dyan is, you need to be an interesting person. Right? The foundation of starting any new relationship with someone is to be interesting. Nobody would like to start a relationship with someone that person does not find interesting in any way. So again, if you take a look at your barkada, you review the history. How did you become friends with your barkada? It started with an interest. Kaya mo barkada yan kasi you found something about that person, or you found something interesting about that person, and that made you want to be friends with that person. So yan yung foundation of establishing a relationship, how to be an interesting person. And so far, I have presented you 5 principles on how to be interesting. How can you attract other people to you to establish a relationship with? Napag-aralan pa lang natin yung 3, no? So these are the 5 different ways on how to be interesting. You need to apply the law of proximity, the law of positive change, the law of positive experiences, the law of listening, the law of conversation. So far, 3 pa lang yung na-discuss natin dyan: proximity, positive experience, and listening. For today, in this video, I'll continue with the law of positive image and the law of conversation. So I hope you have your notes with you para matuto kayo kung papaano ba ina-apply yung dalawang yan. Okay? So let's start our discussion with number 2, the law of positive image. Ano bang ginagawa natin sa law of positive image? Basically, we want a person to be appealing. Okay? So the word positive image here refers to being appealing, or from the word appeal. I'm sure you have heard that expression before. Alam mo yung taong yan, ma-appeal yan eh. For some reason, yung taong yan talagang ang lakas ng appeal niya, ang lakas ng dating niya. What exactly do you mean by appeal? Well, again, to be appealing means I want to be with you. To be appealing means people would like to be with that person. This person who is very appealing, they are very hard to ignore. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng malakas yung dating. Yung kapag nakikita sila ng ibang tao, talagang people become curious about them. They want to spend time with them. They want to at least get to know them. Okay? So that's what you mean by being appealing. And that's what the law of positive image is teaching. If you want people to have a relationship with you, then you need to be an appealing person. But how do you become an appealing person? The key word here is the word pleasant. You have to be a pleasant person. Ayan, you have to be a pleasant person. From the word please, you need to be a pleasing person to be with. Diba? So, paano ba ginagawa yan? How can you make yourself someone who is very hard to ignore by other people? Here are some ways on how to be appealing. Number one, you always start with visibility. And we remember our discussion on proximity. 'Di ba? Kung gusto mo magkaroon talaga ng mga bagong kakilala, kinakailangan maging visible ka sa mata ng iba. You have to be one of the familiar faces that they know. Because the more they become familiar with you, the more they become warm towards you. Because most of the time, people are really defensive when it comes to new faces. People that they don't know that much. So you can also use that principle to be appealing. Magpakita ka kasi ng magpakita. You start there. And then, number two, you dress modestly. That's one way for you to be appealing. It has something to do with the way you dress. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng modestly from the term moderate or from the term average? It means not too much and not too little. Hindi masyadong maraming suot mo, hindi naman sobrang konti ng suot mo. Or, siguro para mas maintindihan nyo, no? To dress modestly means you are not overly dressed, you are also not underdressed. Nandoon ka lang sa gitna. You blend with the way how people are dressed. Now, you may ask, what is the connection between dressing and being appealing? Kasi class, kapag masyado kang extreme, when you stand out from the crowd, either you are overdressed or you are underdressed, you are creating a contrast between you and other people. Parang hinihiwalay mo yung sarili mo from other people, that you are different from them. And in psychology, when people sense that somebody is so different from them, they begin to be defensive. They begin to find those people weird. Nawawala tuloy yung appeal mo kasi you are so different from them. People by nature like other people who are more or less much like them, kahalintulad nila. Kaya kapag masyadong malakas yung iyong dating, masyado kang nag-i-stand out because of the way you dress, it might be misinterpreted by other people that it is arrogance or you are an attention seeker. Most people pa naman, kapag alam nilang attention seeker yung tao, talagang they don't like to be with that person. Alright? So you dress modestly. 'Di ba? Yung, what's the word? I think a good word here is decent. 'Di ba? Yung dapat decente kang manamit, parang ganyan. 'Di ba? Yung malinis kang tignan, hindi masagwa sa mata yung suot mo, nakikiblend ka sa ibang tao. That's what it means to dress modestly. Number 3, another way to be appealing is for you to keep a smiling face. Ngumiti ka, mag-smile ka. 'Di ba? So every time you meet someone, every time there is a new face in front of you, the first response that you give, you smile. Now, you may ask, ano ang connection ng smiling to being appealing? Did you know in psychology, we study this, whenever a person smiles to another person, you are activating positive emotions between you and that person that you are smiling to. Diba? Nagkikreate ka ng emotional warmth between you and that person. So when you smile to another person, na-activate mo yung positive emotions niya, and that positive emotion that that person would feel can be used to start a conversation. Diba? Kasi kapag hindi ka nakasmile, nakasimangot ka, or yung mukha mo parang ang yabang-yabang mo, then people will hesitate to talk to you. Then you lose those opportunities to form new relationships. So don't underestimate the power of smiling. And then other than smiling, you should also greet other people. Don't underestimate what greeting can do, because there are a lot of relationships today na buo yan because somebody greeted somebody. Yung simpleng good morning, yung simpleng pagbate, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, how are you doing? You know, those can start conversations. 'Di ba? Unfortunately, many people today, wala na yata tong ganitong behavior eh. 'Di ba? We just stay in our own world. We are no longer greeting people. We greet people dapat if we want to be more appealing. You wouldn't know the person that you will greet, 'di ba? Can be a new friend. And of course, number 5, ito medyo malayo to but I want you to see the connection, no? Protect your name and protect your image as a person. Number 5 is something that you do beforehand before you meet any new person in your life. Ibig sabihin lang yan, dapat kung merong mga balita about you, kung merong mga information about you that people would see when they research about you, dapat mga magagandang bagay yung mga malalaman nila, yung mga makikita nila about you. Now, here's the thing, to be more specific. After you meet another person, a new person, right? So, nag-usap na kayo and then the conversation went well. Did you know that majority of people today, when they find somebody interesting, you know what would they do? They would go to your social media and profile you. Ibig sabihin ng profile you, they would like to know more about you. That's already the norm today. In fact, the last time I taught this, wala akong slide na ganito Because the last time I taught this, hindi pa uso yung social media. Right? But today, this is already the norm. We talk, I enjoy talking to you, I want to get to know I want to know more about you. What do? I go to Facebook, I search for your profile, and then I learn more about you through your Facebook posts. Ang tawag doon, social media profiling. And then what I see in your social media will tell me if I am going to continue being interested on you. Kapag nakita ko doon yung mga pinagpo-post mo ang papangit, 'di ba, mga walang sense pala yung mga pinagpo-post mo, then less likely kakausapin kita next time. 'Di ba? So this is something that everyone should remember. Okay? When you talk to someone and that person found you interesting, they will check on you through your social media account. So make sure, ito yung point ko dito class, make sure that whatever you post in your social media account, magaganda about you. Huwag kayong nagpo-post ng mga bagay na ikasisira ng image nyo. Like nagmumura kayo sa mga walls nyo. Or nagpo-post kayo ng mga pictures na inappropriate. 'Di ba? O yung kung ano yung mga gestures na ginagawa nyo doon sa pictures nyo. Nakalabas yung mga dila nyo. O mayroon kayong hawak na alcoholic beverages. 'Di ba? These are not good things to post in social media because people will always see these things and it will affect your ability to be appealing. Especially medyo outside the topic, when you apply for your future job. Alam nyo ba ang trend ngayon in recruitment? So they call you for an interview, right? So they interview you based on the resume that you have submitted. Did you know that even before they called you up, they have already checked your social media account? Yes. And whether or not they will interview you for a possible job also depends on the kinds of information that they will find in your social media. Kapag nakita nila na wild ka, na wala kang value sa social media mo, kung ano-ano mga sinasabi mo doon, empty words, hurtful words, less likely tatawagan ka for an interview. O kaya, sa recruitment in the future, kung nag-a-apply na kayo ng mga trabaho nyo, that's one of the things that you should also prepare for. More than your resume. Diba? Ano yung mga makikita nila sa social media mo when they check out on you? That's very important. That's why I remembered one passage from the book of Proverbs, a good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than gold. And I agree. I agree with this. So please protect your good name through being careful about what you post on your social media accounts. That's very important. All right? So those are the different ways on how to be an appealing person. And last one, the last principle to remember if you want to be an interesting person, you need to apply the law of conversation. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng law of conversation? This is your ability to start and to maintain interesting exchange of ideas. According to one research in psychology, one of the top factors why someone would still want to meet another person again, or a factor that will make someone like another person is that person's ability to keep the conversation going, to maintain an interesting conversation. Karamihan ng mga tao who find another person good with conversations, usually they want to see that person again. They want to have a conversation with that person again. That's how important it is for you to develop your conversational skills. That's one way for you to be an interesting person. So when a person says, you know what, this guy is a very interesting person, I met him in a party. Malamang sa malamang, ang ibig sabihin ng taong yon, ang sarap kausap ng taong sinasabi niyang interesting. So the question now is, how do you properly converse with someone? Okay, let me give you some tips. Number one, we start again in practicing your listening skill. Remember, this is one of the laws, the law of listening, right? So babalik lang ulit tayo doon, no? That the same law applies here. If you want to be a good conversationalist, you need to be listening more than you are talking. Sabi nga ng isang author, no? Every good conversation starts with good listening. So don't think that for you to be a good conversationalist, kinakailangan ikaw yung magdo-dominate ng conversation. In fact, the reverse is true. You let that person talk and then you listen to the words that that person is saying. That will communicate to the other person that you are interested with him or her. And most people find interested people interesting. Remember our quote from last meeting? One way to be interesting is to be interested. Number two, after you practice your listening skill, you reflect the other person. So, syempre, habang nakikinig ka, you are absorbing the things that that person is saying to you. What do you do with the words that you are absorbing from that person? The answer, you reflect it to them. Kaya ka nga nakikinig, ina-absorb mo yung mga sinasabi nila. Anong gagawin mo sa mga sinasabi nila? Huwag mong kontrahin. Ang gawin mo, i-reflect mo sa kanila yung mga sinasabi nila. You act like a mirror for that person. Diba? You are going to act like a mirror to that person. Ibig sabihin, ibabalik mo sa kanila yung mga bagay na sinasabi nila. So, for example, you are having this conversation, you are absorbing the things that they are telling you. What you do is, you use these lines. So, after what they're telling you, pwede mo sabihin to. So, what you're saying is, it seems to me that it seems like you are feeling, see, you are acting like a mirror here. Hindi mo sinasabi kung tama o mali yung mga sinasabi niya, no? Mirror ka lang dito. You are reflecting the emotions, reflecting the ideas that this person is telling to you. How does this work? Because when you are able to successfully and accurately reflect emotions and feelings that this person is saying, you are making that person feel that he or she is understood. Di ba masarap kasi sa pakiramdam yon yung merong isang taong nakakaintindi sa mga sinasabi mo. Nagegets ka niya. Di ba masarap kausap ang isang tao na nagegets ka niya. Di ba? So the more you are accurate in reflecting these things to the person that you are talking to, the more this person would like to talk to you next time. Okay? So that's what you mean by reflect the other person. And then number 3, ask open-ended questions. That's one of the many ways how to keep conversation going. Many young people today, merong ganyang difficulty eh. 'Di ba? Lagi nila sinasabi sa akin, "Sir, I am nervous about conversations because I don't know how to keep the conversation going." Minsan when I initiate conversation, meron talagang point na wala nang nagsasalita and it's very awkward. One of the reasons why would that happen, wala na nagsasalita, kasi yung mga tinatanong siguro, mga close-ended questions. Diba? Halimbawa, tanungin mo, ano oras na? O, kumain ka na ba? Anong favorite food mo? Saan ka nag-aaral? Those are close-ended questions. When they answer your question, that's it. Diba? So rather than asking close-ended questions, dapat yung itatanong mo open-ended questions. These are questions that will require the other person to give more details other than factual ideas. So for example, you ask a person something like this, why do you think? Ano sa tingin mo? How come you, ipa-explain mo. How come you always want to be early in class? Something like that. Or how come you like studying history? What makes you think? Ipaliwanag mo nga sa akin bakit ganyan iniisip mo. What's your opinion about? How do you feel about this coming election? There you go. Those questions are open-ended questions because it will require more information from the person that you are talking to. Again, how does that work? Kapag nag-open-ended question ka kasi, it's also indirectly saying to that person that you are interested about the things that he or she is thinking about. And we like to converse with people who are interested with what we think. And one way to communicate that to a person is, yun na nga, tanungin mo siya ng mga open-ended questions. And number 4, another way to properly converse is to broaden your horizon. Ito, napaka-obvious nito, no? Para isa ring paraan para mag-umandar yung conversation nyo, damihan mo yung alam mo. Para kung ano man yung sasabihin nung kausap mo, more or less, may idea ka, you can add up to those details and the conversation will keep on going. So, how do you do this? How do you broaden your horizon? Very basic, but many young people today are no longer doing. That's the value of reading books. Diba? Read books. Maging wide reader kayo para marami kayong mga ideas na nako-connect to any conversations that you are having. Masarap kang kausap. Diba? Another advantage when you have a lot of things to connect to the words being told to you by another person is natututo rin yung tao sa'yo. 'Di ba? You are also educating that person about things that he or she does not know. At isa rin 'yan sa mga reasons why a person would like to talk to you more. Because tuwing kausap ka niya, marami siyang natututunang mga bagay about the world. 'Di ba? Saan nanggagaling yung mga sinasabi mo? Saan nanggagaling yung mga kino-connect mo sa mga sinasabi niya? From the things that you have read. So please, if you are not into reading books, practice, develop that attitude of reading more and more books. That's why, ito yung sinasabi kong implication dito, no? Being a good conversationalist starts even before you converse with another person. Let me repeat. Being a good conversationalist starts even before you have a conversation with another person. Pinaghahandaan yan through collecting information about the world, through reading books, so that you can later use these things to run a very good conversation. Okay? So those are the different ways on how to properly converse under the law of conversation. So in summary, we're done. How do you become interesting for you to start or establish a relationship with an acquaintance? You just constantly do these 5. The law of proximity, positive image, positive experiences, listening, and conversation. The more you apply this, the more you are increasing your chances of successfully establishing new relationships with people, which will enable you to get one of the most important psychological needs, love and belongingness, from human relationships. Now, as I close this, we are done with establishing a relationship. Many people forget that after you establish a relationship, tapos na ba yung trabaho? Tapos na ba yung ginawa mo? Nag-establish ka na, okay, friends na tayo? Hindi pa. Now that that person becomes officially your friend, there is already an existing relationship between you and that person. There is already a connection between you and that person. That relationship then needs to be maintained. Let me repeat, maintained. Hindi dapat establish ka lang ng establish pero hindi mo i-maintain. What happens to a relationship that you established but you did not maintain? It dies. Parang halaman. Pag binili mo yung halaman, tapos na ba yun? Binili mo, buhay na siya forever? No. You need to nurture the plant. Kinakailangan mong diligan yan. Kinakailangan mong itapat sa araw yan. Kinakailangan lagyan mo ng mga fertilizers yan para maging malusog siya. No? Ganon din sa relationships. Many young people today forget that. They think establishing new relationship is enough. After that, bahala na yung relationship kung mabubuhay o hindi. You need to learn another new sets of skills, which is to nurture or maintaining your existing relationships. Para yung friendship nyo nagtatagal. Friend mo na siya for the past 10 years. Bakit naging 10 years yung friendship nyo? Because you nurtured the friendship. And what are some of the things that we can do to nurture our existing relationships? Yan yung pag-aaralan natin for our next Google Meet. Okay? Another very interesting topic. I hope you learned something new today. If you have any questions about how to establish new relationships, you can just comment down below or you can email me and ask those questions. Alright? So I'll see you again next week. Thank you everyone for attending this class. Have a great day. Bye-bye.